What's up, J Fusion fans? This is Philip, and welcome back to another video. So, let's talk about Gavan Infinity episode 21. So, yeah, I'm at least sure that I got the correct number of episode this time. But this is an important episode because finally, all the Gavans have gathered. So, I mean, it was an eventuality. Uh, this was already foreshadowed in episode 1. You know, when Commander Carelcom, had a vision of all the Gavans working together to defeat whatever space syndicate is working within the Maku space, and with Gavan Infinity leading the charge, of course, alongside Bushido, Luminous, and other Gavans. So, you know, it was bound to happen anyway. So, I guess there's no spoiler for that. Again, it's already shown to us in the first episode. Unless you haven't seen Gavin Infinity yet, then what are you doing? Go ahead and watch it. You have a lot of catch up right now. So, with that said, let's talk about episode 21. And, just in case, for the nitty gritty details of this episode, spoiler warning. So, again, it's been a few days since the episode came out, so what are you doing? So, again, go ahead and watch it before coming back to this video, otherwise, enjoy. So, again, I'm gonna really get to the point of this video. So, again, all the Gavans have finally gathered. And, like, the gathering point is actually the Alpha um, Cosmo layer. So, Gavin Infinity's exact universe. So, as so far, we know that there are at least, 3 Gavans that can travel to different dimensions. Of course, Gavan Infinity. We have Death Gavan and Gavan Raya, or G Raya, really. So, thanks to G Raya, so everybody has gathered at, the Alpha Cosmo layer. Now, how did he do it? Now, a few episodes ago, so, actually, like, this was way back when G Raya was introduced. So, G Raya has this little sister, and at the end of after they got, after she was rescued, so she decided, of course, she was very curious about how, other people, or people other than her brother, are able to travel throughout dimensions or cosmo layers. So she took a blood sample. We really didn't see it on camera, but it was played off for jokes. But uh, we don't really see how or what actually came out of that research, but nonetheless, her research, um, you know, led to something, and that was what Jiraiya. Yeah, I'm calling him Jiraiya from this point onward. Or I could also call him Kunai. But anyway, so Kunai Jiraiya. So thanks to his sister's research, so he finally found a way to bring all the other Gavans to the Alpha Cosmo layer. And basically, what they did was, like they worked together to, of course, um, eliminate the threat. And one of the key points in this episode, so uh, as I have mentioned earlier, so we are going back to that shot of multiple Gavans working together from Commander Carol Com's dream. Now, in that dream or in that vision, so we saw at least 5 Gavans. So we already know Infinity, Bushido, and Luminous, and then there are other 2 Gavans. One purple colored Gavan that not necessarily wasn't Jiraiya really, but a purple version of Gavan Infinity, and then another female-looking Gavan with a recolored luminous armor or combat suit, usually like a rose gold color, like pink, metallic pink. So again, rose gold that iPhone color. But nonetheless, so we actually get this shot. However, instead of those two Gavans that I've mentioned earlier, so we actually have different Gavans this time around. So it was actually quite nice that three Gavans from previous episodes, actually two Gavans from previous episodes, and then there's another one from a completely different entry in the show. So I'll get to that later. So they were kind of brought in for this shot. So these other Gavans that I am going to mention, so we have Gavan Armise, so aka Gav Ant from episode 4. So he's back, and we also have Gavan Diagram, aka the Train Gavan, so he's also back as well. And the third one is Gavan Amigo. So to anyone who doesn't know about Gavan Amigo just yet, so Gavan Amigo is the one featured in, I believe this is the hyper battle video for Gavan Infinity. So she's there, but she doesn't really do much in combat. So we see later on, like all of the Gavans in their Cosmo Gavarians. So, like with the exception of Gavan Amigo, who hitches a ride in Gavan Diagram's Cosmo Gavarian. So both of them were there in the same Cosmo Gavarian. So I'm not really sure how, but I haven't seen Gavan Amigo's story, but considering that she has no like Cosmo Gavarian of her own, so yeah, I'm calling Gavan Amigo a she, considering that she's voiced by a female voice actress. I forgot who, but yeah, for all intents and purposes, I'm calling Gavan Amigo a she. So considering again, Amigo is with Diagram in his Cosmo Gavarian, I would assume that Amigo's Cosmo Gavarian was destroyed in her own universe, which is the only explanation that would make sense to me. Nonetheless, so in order to perform a special emotional burst, so all of the Gavans, at least the featured ones in the show, so they gathered all their energy. So from Amigo and Diagram, so launching an energy like launching a laser that would pass on to Jiraiya's Cosmo Gavarian, and then he would pass it on to Luminous, and then Bushido, and then to Infinity's Cosmo Gavarian. So so Gavan Infinity did what I would call the laser projection shot. To those who are not familiar with this, term, so this was especially done. Like, I definitely recall Space Sheriff Scheider doing this. Growing up watching Scheider, I definitely have seen this many, many times. And this was also used in like other Metal Heroes, like definitely Spielvan. Now, I know of this. I've actually never watched Spielvan, but I have seen it through the VR Troopers. So, given that, they used footage from Jiku Senshi's Spielvan, and, they use the same technique. So, particularly JB, yeah. So, again, so using the laser projection, I believe this also happened in Deca Ranger 10 years later, 10 years later. So, they do this as well. Not really within the show, but in the 10-year anniversary film, I have seen that too. So, anyways, so what is laser projection specifically, in case any one of you don't know? So, like, the space sheriffs would create a projection of themselves, like a giant projection, like, and especially like their ship, like for example, Scheider's Vavilos, right? So this, like, Vavilos transforms into like a giant cannon, or like actually like a giant laser gun, and then Scheider projects like a large holographic version of himself, and then pulling the trigger, and then that giant beam cannon fires. So same concept with Spielvan, same concept with Deca Ranger. Although the difference is with uh, like Gavan Infinity and Deca Ranger, so they are using their guns. So, for example, Gavin Infinity is holding his own Gavarian trigger, and then Deca actually uses like the D revolver, and then Deca SWAT or Deca Wing Robo transforms into its gun mode, and then you know, a giant projection of Deca Red like fires the beam cannons, or laser cannons from the gun mode, or the cannon mode of the Deca Wing Robo. So again, that's what they do. So they defeat whatever the threat was, but interestingly, at the end of the episode, something strange happens, which was really surprising. So the Supreme Commander, uh, you know, he tells Commander Calm, Cattle Calm, that the Gavan system will be suspended. Or, yeah, so basically, everyone won't be able to transform in the next episode. So this would be, equivalent to what usually happens in Super Sentai, usually nearing the end of the series, where the Rangers would, they would often find themselves in some sort of situation where they are unable to transform. So, for example, in Deca Ranger, because I love referencing Deca Ranger because it basically is kind of confirmed that the uh, SPD in that universe is connected to the space sheriffs, and they use really similar technology. So, nearing the final episode of Deca Ranger, uh, Aburera, so the main villain, takes control of the Deca base and shuts down the transformation system, leaving the Deca Rangers having a hard time, you know, um, fighting. Of course, Ban, Deca Red, so he learns through Swan, so the chief engineer of SPD Earth. So she tells him that there's a secret switch actually hidden in uh, Murphy's doghouse, which he was able to reach. So he presses the button and reroutes all that power and control, and they regain control of the Deca base, and the Deca Rangers are able to transform again. So that is what happened. And again, this time, they are applying it to Gavan Infinity. Again, I understand, like, even though Gavan Infinity is based off of, the original Space Sheriff Gavan, as part of Project Red, it borrows elements from Super Sentai. And I have seen Gavan as a child. Definitely Shider many times over because it was aired so many times. If you're a kid, by the way, in the Philippines in the 90s, actually like mid 2000s especially, oh my god, you might have seen, so many reruns of Shider. And not once have I seen uh, a situation where the heroes lose their power to transform nearing the final episode. Maybe the enemies were harder to defeat, you know, but never did I see Gavin or Scheider lose their powers, while trying to fight the final boss at some point, at any point, really. But again, borrowing some aspects from actually like more modern Sentai, like again, there would come a point where Rangers lose their powers. Of course, they would regain it, for the final battle. But this is what happens. So, considering that there are what, like 3, 4 episodes left, um, I would say 3 left. Yeah, about 3, so more or less. Nonetheless, so considering that there's not much time left for Gavan Infinity, so yeah, we're entering this final arc, and all the Gavans lose their ability to transform. So let's talk about some aspects that I have seen in this episode. So, like I've mentioned earlier, Jiraiya actually gathers all the other Gavans. Now, he was the one who brought Bushido and Luminous to the Alpha Cosmo layer. And we see Setsuna and Kiki in their untransformed states. Now, this actually brings an interesting, or rather, this reminds me of an interesting aspect that was actually shown earlier, at least twice in previous episodes. So, if you guys remember, at the end of episode 3, Kiki and Koto demand that Reiji take them to his universe, or maybe to some other Cosmo layers. However, Neji states that he could not do that because if he actually does that, they might die. Now, how is this connected? Now, let's jump back a few episodes after that. So, in one flashback, I forgot which episode it was, but in one instance, so uh, this was actually like the first time Reiji and Daisuke traveled to another Cosmo layer. It was unspecified which Cosmo layer, but nonetheless, they have traveled to a different one at some point. So again, they uh, traveled to a different Cosmo layer. Again, I believe it's their first time. So Daisuke also being curious, he steps out of the Cosmo Gavarian with Reiji. However, Reiji is completely fine, while Daisuke almost glitched out of existence. Right? So, again, I may have talked about that in a previous video. I believe I have. But this does bring up something interesting. So, unless you are a Gavan, so again, we see it with Infinity, Death Gavan, and Jiraiya, right? So, all 3 of them can freely travel to other Cosmo layers without them glitching out of existence, most likely being protected by the power of Gears. So, seeing Setsuna and Kiki doing just fine, even without their combat suits, kind of proves that point. So again, they all finally gather around. They at least at this point we see Kiki and Setsuna finally interact with each other again for the first time, because now finally all our main Gavans are together. Okay, so again, seeing both of them doing okay without without the use of their combat suits to protect them from the elements, or again, like glitching out of existence. So kind of proves that if you are at least bonded with an Gear, if you are a Gavan, you could do that. uh, Again, also, we see with the villains, so they uh, use the negative Gears, right? So we see them survive within the Maku space, which again, as explained before by Agi herself, well, she explains to the viewer. So, of course, like we see the Gavans fight within the Maku space, so again, the combat suit is there to protect them. Of course, it's also possible to be protected if you are inside a Cosmo Gavarian. Again, we see it with the other characters, when they interact. So the Cosmo Gavarian is a safe space for them to coexist, without, being affected by outside influence, or, you know, basically the outside environment. So, those are things that I have been noticing throughout the show. So, given that, again, Kiki and Setsuna are now able to walk around freely in Neiji's universe, in his Cosmo layer, just proves that if you're at least a Gavan, you can survive other Cosmo layers even without wearing your uh, combat suit. Now, this is just like the first idea that came to my mind, seeing them interact all in the same spot. But again, going back to something that I said earlier, so Jiraya's sister, again, I forgot her name, so you can tell me down in the comments. So her research had finally gotten us something, so which helped Jiraiya bring all the other Gavans to the Alpha Cosmo layer, but we don't really know what she did or what she invented that would allow other Gavans, to exist and do fine. So we are yet to see that, or I don't know if Toei is planning to show it, but I think we don't have enough time to deal with that, so we can just leave it up to leave it up to assumption. So what did she make? What did she invent? You know, taking something out of Reiji, probably. So yeah, at least you know that research had finally paid off, and all the Gavins are together. That's what mattered basically. Like, I'm not gonna ask about all. I'm not gonna question Toei about the rest of it. So the important thing, all Gavins are together. They have been, they're finally able to fight the Maku Syndicate, basically. You know, and this is going to lead us into the final battle that's coming really soon. So I think Gavan Infinity episode 21 is definitely one of the more interesting episodes in my opinion. Like, Gavan Infinity had a really interesting start. It had a a concept of Neji traveling to other Cosmo layers, meeting other Gavans, but like that kind of storytelling got too repetitive, in my opinion. Um, I mean, we have all those episodes with Death Gavin as well, kind of moving the plot forward. So, you know, like, it got too monotonous, in my opinion. Like, you know, like, you have this episode where, of course, we have like a focus on Deiji, and then we go to Setsuna, and then we have Kik, and then Deiji again. Aside from the times that we had to focus on Kunai's episodes, again, him being introduced, and Kunai also being a dimension hopper himself, just so like his actor could be included in more scenes. That's basically what I think Jiraiya is also like a dimension hopper, is that his actor could have more scenes, uh, given how limited Gavan Infinity is in its episode count. So with that said, I am going to give Gavan Infinity episode 21 a 4.5 out of 5. Now again, um, it's not a perfect episode in my opinion, but definitely, it's more of a hype that all the Gavans are working together in the same space. Like we do see like other Gavans that are not really, like, if you really look far in some shots, there are other Gavans involved that were not really focused on, or were not really featured in other episodes up until that point. So like we see Gavans, you know, we see other Gavans for the first time, but nonetheless, again, we're finally here. So what do you guys think? Leave me down, leave your comments down below. So anyways, thanks for watching, and as always, please do leave a like, comment, share, subscribe, and don't forget that notification bell so you get the latest from GD Fusion. This has been Philip, and I'll see you next time. Bye.